Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. So every once in a while, here on Vegas Hockey Hub, we have to go back into the past to look into the future. It's like that movie Back to the Future where, to understand how we're going to go forward, we have to go back. And one off season that I truly believe is going to be a huge, I mean huge, part of the Vegas Golden Knights moving forward. An off season that impacted the Vegas Golden Knights for really the next few decades is going to be the 2020 NHL off season. Now, the 2020 NHL off season was a weird time because not only was COVID-19 happening during that time period and put hockey into a standstill, which it did, not only did the 2020 NHL offseason happen in October instead of July like it normally was, once again, because of the whole COVID situation, but you had a weird influx of trades, a weird flux of talent being swapped back and forth. You had the Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning, who at the time had only won their first championship, and they were going to go out. They were going to get talent. They brought in guys who were veterans. They did all that. But what the 2020 NHL offseason did was show that there was one team that was willing to go all in. There was one team that was willing to put all their chips in the middle of the table. I'm going to use a Vegas analogy here. They're going to put all your chips in the middle of the table because they were going to go all in on a Stanley Cup run. Keep in mind, this is a team that made it to the Western Conference Finals during the NHL bubble that offseason before. So the Vegas Golden Knights, and here's what my argument is. Here's the title of the video: how the 2020 NHL offseason affected the Vegas Golden Knights for the next decade. How the Vegas Golden Knights made not one, not two, not three, but the Vegas Golden Knights made 4 moves in one offseason that made the Vegas Golden Knights who they are now, and more importantly, made the Vegas Golden Knights into the contender they're going to be for the next decade. So the names you see on your screen were the big fish of the 2020 NHL offseason. To your left, you had Taylor Hall. Now, he was an NHL MVP. He was a huge name with the Edmonton Oilers when he was taken first overall. He got traded to New Jersey, won a NHL MVP in New Jersey, and then got dealt to Arizona during their huge push in 2020. Well, that offseason, he goes to the Buffalo Sabres on a 1-year deal. He's now playing for the Boston Bruins. The second to your left was goaltender Braden Holtby. Now, Braden Holtby was the goaltender who beat the Vegas Golden Knights in the 2018 NHL Finals. He was a guy that a lot of people thought was going to get paid a lot of money by a certain team to be their number one goalie. The Dallas Stars absolutely did. They bit on it, and then Braden Holtby spent 2.5 years with the Dallas Stars, struggled, and then went over to Vancouver, had a cup of coffee with another team. So that one didn't pan out. Now, the two to your right is a fascinating situation because one is a defenseman that I personally wanted with the Vegas Golden Knights that year, and the other one became a Vegas Golden Knight. So the first one from the right is Boston Bruins defenseman Torrey Krug. Now, he was a skill defenseman. He was a small guy, but he was someone who could show a lot of guts. He showed a lot of heart. He was a guy who wasn't afraid to drop the gloves, and he was somebody who could shoot from up high and put the puck in the back of the net. When the 2020 NHL offseason happened that year, I actually wanted Torrey Krug to go to the Vegas Golden Knights. I believed that they could give him a 4-year deal, 5-year deal worth $7 million, and he could go to the Vegas Golden Knights. Well, what ended up happening with him is that he actually ended up going to St. Louis. They paid him very handsomely to go to St. Louis, and he's actually had an interesting career ever since going there. So you have had Torrey Krug, he went to St. Louis, Braden Holtby, he went to Dallas, and then you had Taylor Hall, the former NHL MVP, he went to Buffalo. So the last person is the guy I'm going to put on full screen right here, and that was St. Louis Blues captain and highly touted defenseman Alex Pietrangelo. Now, Alex Pietrangelo just came off a season where he put up 52 points in a shortened 70-game season with the St. Louis Blues. Keep in mind, this is also the same defenseman, Alex Pietrangelo, who was drafted top 5 overall by the St. Louis Blues. This was Alex Pietrangelo, who in a 2019 NHL postseason put up 19 points en route to them winning a Stanley Cup against the Boston Bruins. So Alex Pietrangelo had everything going right for Alex Pietrangelo. He won a Stanley Cup, he was a playoff performer, and he just put up 50 points in St. Louis. Someone was going to open the vault for Alex Pietrangelo. Someone was going to make sure that this guy who was just about to get into his early 30s was going to get paid handsomely that offseason. Well, the team who ended up getting Alex Pietrangelo, a team that ended up giving him an 8-year deal, is this right here, and that was the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights, the first big move they did that offseason that affects them for the next decade was signing Alex Pietrangelo to a 7-year deal worth $8.8 million per year. That's about $61 million over 7 years. Now, has Alex Pietrangelo lived up to that contract? Has Alex Pietrangelo, the guy who is now an alternate captain for the Vegas Golden Knights, has he been able to produce at that same level? Now, the first year was a disappointment. The first year he was with the Vegas Golden Knights, he only put up 23 points, but the one positive he did have was a plus 20. So on the defensive end, he had a plus 20 for the Vegas Golden Knights that year, and he actually did perform in the playoffs, putting up 12 points in 19 games for the Vegas Golden Knights in that shortened 2020-2021 campaign. Year 2 is actually where he started to show some of his promise. He had 44 points in 80 games. That was pretty much averaging half a point per year. In an injury-riddled season for the Vegas Golden Knights, he was one of the rare ones who did not miss many games. In fact, he played 80 out of these scheduled 82 games. So Alex Pietrangelo really showed that he could be a valuable asset for the Vegas Golden Knights in that year 2. And in year 6 of the Vegas Golden Knights' existence, aka the third year that Alex Pietrangelo has been on this team, he started out the season by averaging a point per game in the month of October. I mean, this is a guy in Alex Pietrangelo who has shown that in year 2, averaging half a point per game, this beginning of year 6, where he averaged a point per game for the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm going to say that he very well has earned that 7-year deal, $61 million. He definitely made up for that disappointing year 1 by backing it up in year 2 and definitely backing up in year 3. So I will say the next 4 seasons for Alex Pietrangelo, he will be a cornerstone of the Vegas Golden Knights. Alex Pietrangelo, whose deal, by the way, is not going to end until 2027, he is going to be a valuable asset for the Vegas Golden Knights. He is going to be a player that they're going to rely on as time goes by. As the young defensemen like Zach Whitecloud, Caden Korzak, Braden Packle, those are going to be defensemen that are going to rely on the veteran leadership of Alex Pietrangelo. They're going to rely on the knowledge that Alex Pietrangelo is going to have in his mid-30s for the Vegas Golden Knights. So Alex Pietrangelo was really the first big deal the Vegas Golden Knights did that offseason, and he really has provided a lot for the Vegas Golden Knights. So as we are talking about looking back at the 2020 NHL offseason and how it affected the Vegas Golden Knights for the next decade, here on Vegas Hockey Hub, here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media, I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. So that was the first move that really affected the Vegas Golden Knights.
The second one was a big reward. All right, this was low risk, high reward for the Vegas Golden Knights, and that was re-signing Chandler Stevenson to a 4-year deal worth $11 million. Now, keep in mind what Chandler Stevenson was up to that point. The year before, he was traded halfway through the year by the Washington Capitals to the Vegas Golden Knights. He put up 22 points in 41 games that year and actually had a plus 19 for the Vegas Golden Knights. So, if you are the Vegas Golden Knights, he put up 22 points for you, a career high up to that point. You have to ask yourself, we're giving you $2.75 million per year over 4 years. This was a low risk, high reward situation because, yes, $2.75 million sounds like a lot to us, but $2.75 million is not much for an NHL hockey team. 2.75 is not a lot when it comes to a cap hit, when it comes to letting go of somebody. So they risked a low contract on Chandler Stevenson, and he has so far been a great player for the Vegas Golden Knights. The first year after this contract, he put up 14 goals in 51 games for the Vegas Golden Knights. That was a career high for him. The next year, he puts up 21 goals in 79 games for the Vegas Golden Knights. And for year 6, Chandler Stevenson was averaging a point per game in the month of October for the Vegas Golden Knights. So every single year, Chandler Stevenson has improved with the Vegas Golden Knights. Chandler Stevenson is a player that the Vegas Golden Knights risked low on and got a lot back. And I will say on record, the next time that his contract is up in the 2024 season, expect Chandler Stevenson to make a lot more than $2.75 million. I guarantee that. So Alex Pietrangelo, that definitely worked out. Chandler Stevenson has more than worked out. But how about an entry-level deal that's going to affect the Vegas Golden Knights for the next 5 seasons? How about an entry-level deal that has benefited Vegas 10 times more than they expected it to? How about talking about this guy right here? How about the goaltender, Logan Thompson? Now, Logan Thompson in 2020 was an unknown guy. In 2020, they signed Logan Thompson to an entry-level deal worth $800,000 for 2 years. Okay, Logan Thompson, when he got signed by the Vegas Golden Knights in 2020, just came off of playing in the ECHL for the Washington Capitals. Trust me when I say nobody expected this move to have any impact for the Vegas Golden Knights. But yet, we are 3 seasons past, and not only has Logan Thompson become one of the best goaltenders for the Vegas Golden Knights, he has become one of the best young goaltenders in the NHL right now. Logan Thompson, at the age of 25, has become one of the best skilled goaltenders the NHL has had right now. So Logan Thompson, who, by the way, his first 2 games of the 2022-2023 season, he had a goals against average of 1.5. So for a young goaltender, that is insanely impressive. There's also the same Logan Thompson that within his first 20 starts had a goals against average under 2.7. So the Vegas Golden Knights made a fantastic move getting an entry-level deal on Logan Thompson. And how did they reward Logan Thompson for all of his efforts? By giving him a 3-year extension until 2025. So the 3 moves that I mentioned for the Vegas Golden Knights, the 3 moves that I mentioned for the 2020 NHL offseason has benefited Vegas greatly. The first one was getting Alex Pietrangelo to a 7-year deal. That has been an amazing move for Vegas. Number 2 was signing Chandler Stevenson on a low-risk, high-reward 3-year deal worth $2.75 million. That benefited Vegas a lot. and then signing Logan Thompson to an entry-level deal, and he has now become their starting goaltender. So the last two that we really have to talk about here on Vegas Hockey Hub, and yes, I definitely appreciate that comment. The Knights are a top line hockey team. They absolutely are. The Vegas Golden Knights are a top tier hockey team, and I'm really happy to see Vegas having success. The next two moves, one of them is going to be positive, and then the other one, not so much. So this one right here, I'm showing you on the screen, was Keegan Kolesar. Now, Keegan Kolesar only had limited amount of games in the NHL when he signed this deal with the Vegas Golden Knights. When Keegan Kolesar was signed originally by the Vegas Golden Knights, he was in the AHL. He was in the minors. He really did not have much name recognition when it came to the Vegas Golden Knights. But he eventually showed why he would become a valuable asset to the Vegas Golden Knights. This was a guy who came in and really showed that he could become a valuable asset to Vegas. When he signed that 2-year deal worth $700,000, he made an impact right away. Not only did he play his first season in Chicago, put up 18 points, by the way, but he eventually made a call up to the Vegas Golden Knights. He spent some time with Vegas. He did a very good job. So, year 2 of that contract. He plays a full year with the Vegas Golden Knights, puts up 13 points in 44 games, only has 30 penalty minutes. However, his defensive metrics are leaving a lot to be desired. His next season, in 77 games, he puts up 24 points for the Vegas Golden Knights, has a astonishing 68 penalty minutes, and his defensive metrics, once again, leaves a lot to be desired. So, when it comes to Keegan Kolesar, a guy who had 10 goals in his first 3 seasons with the Vegas Golden Knights, his plus minus of -10 is something you have to question. Yes, Keegan Kolesar is a great guy when it comes to putting people on the boards, when it comes to standing up for your teammates, when it comes to making an impact. Keegan Kolesar is your guy on the bottom 6. But I can understand why some people are lukewarm on Keegan Kolesar, because there are some fractions of the fan base who believe that he is just Ryan Reaves 2.0. There are some people who really believe that Keegan Kolesar is just the bottom 6 version of what Ryan Reaves used to be. And my rebuttal to that would be, well, the thing is, Keegan Kolesar can score goals. You know, Keegan Kolesar, he has already scored 10 goals up to this point. You know, Ryan Reaves didn't score as many goals as Keegan Kolesar had. More importantly, Keegan Kolesar has become someone who can pass the puck around. He is someone that can do a lot of movement with the puck. So I would actually say that when it comes to Keegan Kolesar, I actually think that he is an upgraded version, a younger version of what Ryan Reaves was. That Keegan Kolesar has become one of a more stable bottom 6 the Vegas Golden Knights have had. So when it comes to Keegan Kolesar, really my final comments is that when they gave him their extension this offseason, when they gave him a 3-year deal worth $4.2 million, they did that because they believe that Keegan Kolesar can be what William Carrier has been since the beginning. They believe that William Carrier, his long-term stability, is what they're hoping Keegan Kolesar can eventually become. And if I had to make a prediction for you, if I had to come up with an angle, I actually believe Keegan Kolesar can be like William Carrier. Reliable, consistent, durable, stone hands, putting people in the wall. I think Keegan Kolesar is a nice find for the Vegas Golden Knights. That was a solid move by them. And then lastly, this one's going to take a while. I saved this one for last because I want everyone's opinion on this. I want everyone watching around the world to give me your comments on this deal, because there's going to be 2 type of reactions you can give. Now, Robin Lehner was the second highest requested goaltender in that 2020 offseason, outside of Braden Holtby, who I showed earlier in the show, who went to Dallas. Robin Lehner was right below him when it came to wanting him to be part of your team. So on October 3rd, 2020, a few days before the actual offseason kicked off, the Robin Lehner deal got signed by the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, Robin Lehner signed a 5-year deal worth $25 million, essentially a 5-by-5 deal to stay in Las Vegas. It also came with a modified no-trade clause in his deal. So, to give you perspective on the whole Robin Lehner situation, the Vegas Golden Knights were investing $25 million in Robin Lehner to be one of the highest paid backups in the NHL. At the time, Marc-Andre Fleury was the starting goaltender for Vegas. Marc-Andre Fleury was your face of the franchise in Las Vegas. So they were paying Robin Lehner to be what Jake Allen was in Montreal. They were paying Robin Lehner to be what Semyon Varlamov was in New York. Essentially, they were paying Robin Lehner a lot of money to be a backup to Marc-Andre Fleury. So what happened the year after this deal? Well, he puts up 19 games, a 2.29 goals against average, and they end up winning the Jennings Trophy with Marc-Andre Fleury. So that first year after this contract was signed was actually a fantastic move. In fact, a lot of people were praising it at the time because of the success that Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner had. The second year is when everything went haywire. That second year, when Marc-Andre Fleury was traded to Chicago, Robin Lehner was now one of the lowest paid starting goaltenders in the NHL. Funny how that works, by the way. He went from one of the highest paid backups to being one of the lowest paid starters in the NHL. And that season for Robin Lehner, he struggled. He actually struggled. He had a 2.83 goals against average. He had a 90.7 save percentage, only played 44 games because he got injured not once but twice. And Robin Lehner did not be in the playoffs that year because the Vegas Golden Knights barely missed. So Robin Lehner in year 2 of that 5-year deal struggled without Marc-Andre Fleury. So some people had it in their heads that the Vegas Golden Knights needed to move on from Marc-Andre Fleury to bring in Robin Lehner, right? Well, a few years later, Robin Lehner, people are saying, well, why don't we move on from him? We now have Logan Thompson. It's very similar to that new flavor of the month ideology, right? You know, when you have something brand new, something shiny, something with that brand new car smell, people are attracted to a brand new situation. So I have talked to people who are fans of the Vegas Golden Knights. I have had conversations with people who are diehard hockey fans, and I've come to one or two conclusions when it comes to Robin Lehner. When Robin Lehner essentially comes back to the Vegas Golden Knights, one of two situations going to happen. Either one, they're going to play out the final 2 years of that deal, but Robin Lehner is going to be a backup to Logan Thompson. That because of how well Logan Thompson has performed for the Vegas Golden Knights, they're going to have Robin Lehner once again be one of the highest paid backups in the NHL. They're going to have him play, 25, 30 games a year, but Logan Thompson, the future in net for the Vegas Golden Knights, who, by the way, we talked about in a recent episode. Go back and watch that, where I talked about how the future is bright in net for the Vegas Golden Knights. But I'm just pointing out that's the first scenario, that Robin Lehner stays in Vegas, but he ends up being the backup to Logan Thompson. The second possibility is that the Vegas Golden Knights buy out Robin Lehner and they pay him for the next 4 or 5 years to not play for the Vegas Golden Knights. There's been that possibility that the conversation they were having about Marc-Andre Fleury in the 2020 NHL offseason could end up happening to Robin Lehner in the future down the line. So I want to ask everyone watching around the world, which option do you see the Vegas Golden Knights doing with Robin Lehner? Option one is that they keep Robin Lehner, they play out the final 2 years, and he is a backup to Logan Thompson. Or option two, they buy out Robin Lehner and they will pay him X amount of money for the next 4 or 5 years, and he'll sign a veteran minimum deal to play someplace else. Very similar to what the New Jersey Devils did with Corey Schneider, for example. So I just want to know from everyone watching around the world what your reaction would be to Robin Lehner, because I've actually been talking about it with several people, and that's really the only two options that they have at this point. Either make him a backup or buy him out and have him be a backup goaltender someplace else in the NHL. So going back to what the beginning of the show was, we have about 5 minutes left here. There was one trade I do want to discuss very quickly, because this trade actually allowed Robin Lehner to get to the Vegas Golden Knights. That if this trade was not mentioned on this show, I know somebody would have crucified me for it. So the one trade that happened in 2020 that allowed Alex Pietrangelo to even be on the organization, in October of 2020, the Vegas Golden Knights sent fan favorite Nate Schmidt to the Vancouver Canucks for a third-round pick. Now, that third-round pick actually got sent back to Vancouver later in that timeline. Funny enough, by the way, they actually sent it back to Vancouver, and they actually ended up drafting Elias Patterson, which is hilarious. But the whole situation is that Nate Schmidt was sent to Vancouver. His near $6 million contract was sent to Vancouver so that they could sign Alex Pietrangelo to a 7x8 deal. Now, Nate Schmidt, he has actually had somewhat of a regression ever since leaving Vegas. He had only 5 goals in 54 games for the Vancouver Canucks, and he only had 32 points in 77 games for Winnipeg when Vancouver traded him over there. So you had a Nate Schmidt who had a positive plus minus in his multiple seasons playing for the Vegas Golden Knights, to having a negative plus minus playing in Winnipeg and a negative plus minus while playing in Vancouver. So I have to very quickly mention that Nate Schmidt deal because I knew somebody was going to mention it. Also, they traded Paul Stastny to Winnipeg for a prospect and a future draft pick. So those are really the two deals that affected the Vegas Golden Knights. They were not long-term, though. That's the reason why I'm going to very briefly mention it. It did not affect them long-term like in Alex Pietrangelo. It did not affect them long-term like signing Chandler Stevenson, like signing Keegan Kolazar and Logan Thompson. But it was still a trade nonetheless, so I have to mention that real quick. So, Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. Now, our next show that we're going to talk about, an upcoming show, going to give you a little bit of a teaser here. So we're going to talk about the Buffalo Sabres and how they have become the Vegas Golden Knights' favorite trade partner in the NHL. And I'm also going to discuss the Jack Eichel trade and how the Vegas Golden Knights and the Buffalo Sabres won both of those deals. That the Buffalo Sabres getting Alex Tuch and Peyton Krebs and the Vegas Golden Knights getting Jack Eichel is going to be a win-win for the NHL, going to be a win-win for Buffalo, and will be a win-win for Vegas. So that's going to be an upcoming show here on Vegas Hockey Hub. Do not miss that. And also, I will appreciate everyone who watches this show, Vegas Hockey Hub. Follow us on all social medias at Vegas Hockey Hub, and follow your host at Ian Rickelli18 on all social medias. So until next time, have a great one, enjoy hockey, and go Knights, go.